Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Scrolling through some articles, wanted to share some articles with everyone. Seems like some people like these. I'm going to talk about some potential shortages, some other things in the markets that I'm seeing, some oil and whatnot, an oil pick. ReconAfrica is the one that I'm going to talk about in this. And we'll dive in here. So looking at this, it's two critical supply shortages that could eviscerate the global economy. It looks like they misspelled economy here. That's nice. It says there are two key global shortages that we are going to want to keep a very close eye on this year. According to the International Fertilizer Development Center, exceedingly high fertilizer prices could result in a reduction of agricultural output. The other major shortage is the ongoing computer chip shortage. And I've taken positions in fertilizer companies, specifically potash. The two companies are Intrepid Potash and Mosaic, because I think that fertilizer prices are going to get to ridiculous levels, and I think that food prices are going to go up quite dramatically. It says this was supposed to be the year that things got back to normal, but here we are at the end of January, and things have only gotten worse. As we move forward into February and beyond, there are two key global shortages that we are going to want to keep a very close eye on. One of them is the rapidly growing fertilizer shortage. And that shortage, they're saying, is a very big deal. It's no secret that farmers are faced with a fertilizer crisis. Prices for phosphorus-based and potassium-based potash fertilizers have more than doubled in Kansas, while nitrogen-based fertilizers have more than quadrupled. Fertilizer is vital to feeding not only the country, but the world. It contains essential nutrients for plant life, and without it, American agricultural yields will quickly suffer, as well as food prices in the local grocery stores. The other shortage, looking at that, is the chip shortage. It says the RFI, the radio frequency indicator, I can't remember, the RFI chips, can't remember what RFI was, radio frequency something, showed that median inventory held by chip consumers, so this is their inventories, has fallen from 40 days in 2019 to less than 5 days in 2021. If a COVID outbreak or natural disaster or political instability disrupts a foreign semiconductor facility for even just a few weeks, it has the potential to shut down a manufacturing facility in the United States. At this point, computer chips used to produce automobiles and medical devices are particularly in short supply. It's got $210 billion in lost revenue from the shortage, and in 2021, auto prices drove 1/3 of all inflation, primarily because we don't have enough chips. Automakers produced nearly 8 million fewer cars last year than expected, which some analysts believe resulted in more than $210 billion in lost revenue. Now, what's next ahead of us, since we've got the renewables, is the inevitable rise of the energy storage sector. It's another sector that we could look at for potential investment. It says the global energy crunch is not just a result of the COVID pandemic and geopolitical maneuvering by Russia. It is the inevitable result of ambitious attempts at transitioning away from fossil fuels. If we accept that a global energy transition is our only viable option, then energy storage is going to be the single most important factor in its success. From lithium-ion batteries to green hydrogen and even gravity storage, this is the sector that is set to soar in the coming years. And the only thing that I'll say there is that some of the most... So we're looking for long-range storage options. There's gravity storage, concentrated solar power storage, green hydrogen, and cryogenic batteries is what this person's offering up as solutions. So there's gravity storage, where you basically pump something or water or whatever upward and then use gravity to bring it back down. Concentrated solar power storage holds onto energy as heat in the form of molten salt. Green hydrogen has historically been costly and not energy efficient, but as it becomes cheaper and easier to produce with technology advances, burning this fuel, which leaves behind nothing but water vapor, is becoming more attractive. And then cryogenic batteries chills an air to liquid form when needed. The liquid turning back to a gas will spin a turbine. And we've got UK gas production could plunge by 75% by 2030. And they're already having a natural gas crisis, and this is only going to amplify it. It says domestic production currently meets 47% of the UK's gas demand. 31% comes from pipelines imports from Europe, mostly from Norway, and 21% from LNG imports. In 2020, Russia supplied 3.4% of the UK gas. So according to the industry body, new fields are needed in the UK North Sea to stave off a predicted 75% plunge in domestic supplies. And the quote is, in the longer term, if the UK gas production is allowed to fall as predicted, then our energy supplies will become ever more vulnerable to global events over which we have no control, as we now see happening with Russia's threatened invasion of Ukraine. I've got some stuff here on the Aramco CEO. Energy transition is not going smoothly. No way. It says, we have to acknowledge that the current transition is not going smoothly. We all agree that to move towards a sustainable energy future, a smooth energy transition is absolutely essential, but we must also consider the complexities and challenges to get there. I am proposing that investment in both existing and new energy be continued until the latter is developed enough to realistically and significantly be able to meet rising global energy consumption. Right now, the world is facing an ever more chaotic energy transition. Several highly unrealistic scenarios and assumptions about the future of energy are clouding the picture. Energy security, economic development, and affordability imperatives are clearly not receiving enough attention until they are. And unless the glaring gaps in the transition strategy are fixed, the chaos will only intensify. I like it because he's right. Now, one of the things I wanted to cover here is it's full speed ahead for the world's most exciting oil play. It's Reconnaissance Energy Africa. I just took the article here. I do own a position in it. I'm not advocating that anyone else does, but this is kind of the background on it. James Stafford, I think he used to be someone who used to work for, I think it's the bigger banks, and was an analyst or something like that. And he's been a big proponent of ReCAF, Reconnaissance Energy Africa. And I'm just going to read a couple of things here. There are a lot of short sellers, and the company's probably going to get sued by them because they got absolutely smoked. And the sheer magnitude of the discovery, our picks for the world's most exciting onshore play in recent history, and possibly the last we will see, has updated shareholders on the prospects for the next 3-6 well drill campaign in Namibia. What's coming up is they nearly finished with the initial interpretation of its massive 450 kilometers of 2D seismic data for the Namibia's Kavango Basin. In the meantime, Rico has designed another huge 500-kilometer 2D seismic acquisition program, which has been submitted to the local authorities for approval and is slated to start by the end of February. As soon as all permitting is approved by the Namibian government, we'll see the detailed drilling schedule for the first half of this year. We believe the first well will be spudded in Q1. So ReCAF, and just to give you a little bit of a background, guys, they have a massive acreage that they're going to drill. It's like millions of acres. Has the rights to 6.3 million acres. That's where it is. And they hit, so he's got it in here. The first well, 6-2, encountered over 250 meters of hydrocarbon shows after drilling to a depth of 2,294 meters. The second test well returned 350 meters of hydrocarbon shows after drilling to a depth of 2,780 meters. So they've had two wells that they've already hit and show hydrocarbon. And it says, likewise, industry recognized Polaris conducted the 450-kilometer 2D seismic program for Rico, the results of which will help determine where the upcoming drill campaign that we've been waiting for. And what he's saying, it's an 8.5 million acre play of a lifetime. The size of the play is almost unimaginable. It's a play has had the likes of Wood Mackenzie and well-known analysts for natural resources compare the potential to the Permian Basin in Texas. And these guys have the entire acreage. We think the sheer size and potential here demands patience, and early-in investors are probably in this for the long haul. When billions of barrels are at stake in what could be a once-in-a-lifetime exploration effort, it's important to do things right and by the book, including lineup of ESG efforts that ensure this is beneficial for Namibia. Stanky has called it transformational for Namibia, a country that suffers from the severe energy poverty. Their main goal in Vision 2030 is to industrialize their country and pull their people out of poverty. You have to remember that they don't have a significant amount of indigenous energy. For example, Namibia imports 60% of their electricity from South Africa. So how can they industrialize their country if you have to import energy to establish industries, but at higher costs? Then how do you compete? You can't. So far, despite misinformation on the contrary, that has been debunked by the Namibian government itself. We think ReconAfrica has made the right moves to ensure the biggest conventional onshore oil exploration in decades is de-risked for everyone. So this company is $1 billion market cap. They could be sitting on billions of barrels of oil. Billions of barrels of oil. So you could potentially buy in for less than $1 per barrel if they have as many barrels as what we think. They've already hit on 2 wells. They've only drilled 2 wells. What's the likelihood of drilling 2 wells and hitting on the first time? Pretty low. They probably have something massive. That's my guess. Now, this company is not going to trade in tandem with the oil price. It's going to trade like it's an exploration company and is highly based off of news, and this is very speculative. So I wouldn't be putting a whole bunch of money into it, but if they hit something big, it could return quite dramatic. They've already hit on the first 2 wells. So I think that, I'm putting some money in it. I think the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. It has had a pretty good run already, but I do think there's a lot left in it. And if they can de-risk this, they're going about it, I think, the right way. They are hiring basically Namibian people, the locals. They're hiring them and putting them on. They're working with local governments. They are drilling water wells for the people. They are hiring and putting the money to Namibian people that work there and live there. They're basically funneling all this money back to the local people. And of course, they're going to want it because they're benefiting from it as well. So I think they're approaching it the right way. I think it will go through. There are people trying to short sell this thing, and they're putting out, I think, articles against it that do not hold any water. They are trying to bring this down, and I don't know why. Maybe this is one of the largest oil finds in the world. And some other larger entity wants it, and they want this company to fail. The thing is, when you get a bunch of short sellers, if they're trying to get this company to fail, there's going to be a massive move higher if they have what they have. And those short sellers are going to have to cover again. So it could be quite dramatic to the upside when all this unwinds, and if they find something big over this next year. How much is billions of barrels of oil in the ground worth if these guys find something in a massive bull market in oil? And when oil is in deficit, you're going to get a very large premium when they go to sell this. And what they're going to do is they're going to find it, they're going to de-risk it. And what their plans are is to actually produce from it. They have plans, and I think the production plans are in 2023 to produce from these wells. They're going to contract out and get a joint venture, probably a larger company or a bigger company that's done more production, and partner with them to produce from this basin. That's their goal. And I hope that they're successful in doing it. But if they can do this, where they go from an explorer to a developer to a producer in the time frame that they can do it, that's going to add a lot of value for shareholders. So I've got some money in there. This isn't necessarily a recommendation by any means. You guys are going to have to do your own due diligence. Please look into the company before buying it. Make sure it's right for you. But I've got some money in there. I'm riding it. The technical chart looks pretty good. So I'm riding it higher. I also have investments in fertilizer companies. The 2 that I talked about was Intrepid Potash and Mosaic. If we're going to have problems with fertilizer, well, I'm going to invest directly into it. They're both American-based companies. and hopefully they don't get shortages of energy themselves. I'm not playing the chip shortage. I don't really care because most of those are commodity consumers. I want to be ones that produce commodities. That's where I want to be. And I don't know how to necessarily play the chip shortage with a commodity play. But the fertilizer companies, I think, are pretty good. And you can find other fertilizer companies as well, and I'm sure they'll do well as well. And energy storage, I think that's going to be a tough one because the cost to store electricity is absolutely ridiculous right now. We don't have a solution, in my opinion, and I don't think a solution is going to come. So I think we're going to have a messy transition between the renewables and eliminating fossil fuels. And that transition is an opportunity because they're going to mess this thing up massively. Obviously, the Saudi Aramco CEO agrees that it's a messy transition, and that I think that opportunity is going to be there with this transition. And the opportunity, one of the ones that I invested in is ReconAfrica, because it is a speculative company. It may not play out as planned. Remember, there's a lot of risk in this one. But if they're successful and they can find this amount of barrels and they can produce from it by maybe 2023, they're gonna add a whole bunch of value for shareholders. And the stock is down right now. It is down, and the short sellers and all this, it is FUD, I guess. A lot of misinformation is being released on the company. I don't think that the company. I think they're doing everything right as far as I can tell and what I can find. I think it is all misinformation. So I think with that misinformation out there and people being a little bit skittish, the company has come back, and that's where your opportunity is. So I bought some. I own a good amount in it. So that's what I've got for today. Give me a thumbs up on the content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.